Back now to our top story, the unrest in Los Angeles and the Trump administration's heavy-handed response. President Trump is in the Oval Office taking questions about what's happening. Let's listen.
Will you invoke the Insurrection Act to deal with the situation in California?
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We'll see. But I can tell you last night was terrible. The night before that was terrible. We have, as you've seen, it was on most of your networks, people with big, heavy hammers pounding the concrete and pounding curbs, pounding it, breaking up, and handing these big chunks of concrete to people. And they were taking that concrete, going up on bridges and dropping it into the roof of a car. They were throwing it at our police. They were throwing it at our soldiers that are there. And we got it stopped, and we have them in custody right now. Look, if we didn't get involved, right now, Los Angeles would be burning, just like it was burning a number of months ago with all the houses that were lost. Los Angeles right now would be on fire, and we have it in great shape and not playing around.
How will you determine whether or not there is an insurrection?
Well, you'll take a look at what's happening. I mean, I could tell you there were certain areas of Los Angeles that you could have called it an insurrection. It was terrible. But these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They get money. And when you take a look at what they do, where they show up and everyone's saying, what's he doing? He's pounding the curbs. This one guy's pounding the curb, breaking the curb, and handing big pieces of granite. In some cases, it's granite and concrete to other people. And they're running out with it. And then we watch the other people, and they try and throw it into the face of the soldiers, throw it into the face of the police, and they hurt some people very badly. They go up on bridges, they drop it down on the cars as the cars are moving. They're not breaking the curb because they're doing a demolition service. They're breaking it to hand out to people as a weapon. It's bad stuff. I've never seen that before.
Mr. President, how soon do you want to see FEMA eliminated? And what's your message to the governors about how much more of an expense it's going to fall to states?
Yeah, well, it's not going to be so much to states. We're going to give out less money. We're going to give it out directly. It'll be from the president's office. We'll have somebody here. Could be Homeland Security, but we're going to give it out through a method where it's given out. As an example, I just gave out $71 million to a certain state. They were looking to do about 120. They were very happy with the 71 million. We did a little cutting.
Okay, you just heard President Trump, before he was asked about FEMA, making some pretty grand pronouncements about the situation in Los Angeles and what he claims is the federal response. So I have a Democratic Congresswoman, Laura Friedman of California, here with me. Her district includes parts of Los Angeles and its suburbs. Thank you so much for being here. What's your response to what the president said?
I thought the president's response was shocking. We've had a very large local law enforcement response to the troublemakers that have infiltrated into some of these protests. We have about 650 California Highway Patrol officers on scene as well. And to say that it was Trump and other outside forces that have come in and gotten the situation under control is very disrespectful to local law enforcement who are out there trying to defend the public and doing a great job in the streets of Los Angeles. The governor has told members of Congress in a briefing that local law enforcement in Los Angeles and in the state of California are perfectly capable of dealing with this problem. And there certainly are people that are creating a problem right now, and I don't want to minimize that. But to send in the Marines, to threaten to bring in, to take over the National Guard in California, which the governor is perfectly capable of calling on himself if he needs it, is a manufactured crisis that Trump now wants to claim that he solved, when there's very, very few of the National Guard actually deployed in these crowds right now.
Well, let me just sort of underscore something that the president said specifically. He said, we got it stopped, quote, got it stopped, meaning the National Guard.
I would say that it was local law enforcement that's been on the ground for the last few days, controlling the situation, and by the way, protecting the thousands of peaceful protesters that are out on the streets that we're not talking about. But I want to make sure that we do focus for a minute on the fact that we have thousands of people that have come out to voice their displeasure with this administration's policies. And I did bring a photo that my staff took yesterday of several thousand people who marched very peacefully through the streets of Los Angeles. And we also need to recognize them and see them, I think, as a nation, that they have something to say, and we can't let this detract from that. And I want to say that what the Trump administration is doing, and Donald Trump himself right now, is trying to create a distraction, number one, from the fact that thousands of Americans are marching in opposition to his policies all across the country, and particularly in Los Angeles right now. And also from the fact that while he's trying to get everyone to look over at 100 people that are causing a disturbance in Los Angeles, a local problem, we are here in Washington watching them try to give the top 5% wealthiest people of this country a $1.6 trillion with a T tax break, amount of money that's inconceivable to most people, while they cut over $1 trillion in benefits that go to health care, that go to veterans, that go to child care. And we cannot get distracted in this moment.
Well, it is a very clear, very overt policy that Donald Trump has and has had. He was very open in the campaign that he wanted to do exactly what he is doing in Los Angeles. I'm not talking about the National Guard or the Marines, but I'm talking about deporting undocumented immigrants, not just those who have criminal records, but undocumented immigrants. So just on the policy of it all, can you speak to that? Because they believe that putting you and other Democrats in the position of saying, no, we don't want to deport these people is good policy for them and good politics.
Right, but it's also it's an oversimplification that's backfired even in Republican areas where we've seen when they've tried to deport people in red states who were community members, who were undocumented, but that people knew in the community, that people have said, hey, aren't the people that we were talking about. So when you start to parse through the numbers that are sometimes trotted out about people's feelings about deportations, it's a little more complicated. And so Donald Trump has spent the last few years trying to demonize our entire migrant community, even people that are here legally, even people who are citizens, and trying to say that they're sort of a cancer from within, they're not real Americans. And he's lumped actual criminals in with the migrant population. And so people will say, well, sure, we don't want those people here. But even recently, Donald Trump himself has said, oh, no, we're not going to focus on farmhands. We're not going to focus on people that are bringing you food in a restaurant. We're going to focus on criminals. And that, of course, is more popular. I would say if someone's a criminal, whether they have a visa or not, I don't want them in the country either.
That's not, but like, I don't know, a couple of days after he was inaugurated, Tom Homan said to me and others point blank, it's everybody who's here illegally, not just the criminals.
Right, and we only have a certain amount of resources in ICE. We cannot focus on everyone. And I think if you asked many people, they would say, let's focus on kind of the worst people, the people who are causing problems. But the reason that people started protesting in Los Angeles is that they were angry that people were being taken, sometimes without a warrant. They didn't want to see kids separated from their families, ICE showing up at elementary schools and trying to get in to take kids into custody. When it becomes real in people's communities, that's when you start seeing these kinds of backlashes.
I just want to quickly get you to respond to something that your fellow Democrat Senator from Pennsylvania, John Fetterman, said. He said on social media, I unapologetically stand for free speech, peaceful demonstrations, and immigration, but this is not that. This is anarchy and true chaos. My party loses the moral high ground when we refuse to condemn setting cars on fire, destroying buildings, and assaulting law enforcement.
So today we did a press conference with a bunch of legislators from California. We had a bunch of members of Congress, all Democrats, and every single one of them condemned any violence in these protests. Let's be clear, those people that I showed you, those thousands of protesters, they're put in danger by these chaos agents who come in, who throw rocks and try to agitate the police and set things on fire. Those people should be arrested. I have said that. Other Democratic members of Congress from Los Angeles have said we have zero tolerance policy towards people that are endangering law enforcement and endangering other protesters. So I don't believe that Democrats have been speaking up and condemning those 100 or so people that are causing these problems.
Yeah, no, I've heard you say it, and Governor Newsom and the mayor and pretty much everybody.
But let me say for immigration, we need real immigration policy. We had a bipartisan immigration bill last year that if the Republicans want to bring forward, I would vote for it tomorrow. And we could help shore up the border, and we could bring sense to immigration and stop this chaos.
You're a freshman, you're new to Washington. You know, I like your optimism about immigration reform. They've tried it for decades that I've been covering. So, you know, maybe it's just a new voice that they need. Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thanks, Dana. Thanks for having me.